What's up, everybody? Jason back with another episode of Vendors, where we sit down with leading wedding industry professionals and have intimate one-on-one conversations to answer the questions that couples like you have, or the questions you don't even know to ask yet. Today we're sitting down with David Rothstein from David Rothstein Music, who offers live music and DJs for your events. Let's get started. Welcome back to Vendors. David, thank you so much for being with us today.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So who are you and what do you do?
My name is David Rothstein, and we have a live music company that does great live music for weddings and corporate events.
Fantastic. How long have you been doing this?
This is our 20th year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think, when they think about music or a DJ or a band, is they show up and they perform and then they go. But obviously there's a ton more work goes into before. Can you talk a little more about that, like all the work you have to do ahead of time?
Yeah, and actually a majority of the actual work is done before you even arrive to the wedding. So during that time, you want to figure out what styles of music they want or don't want, artists they want or don't want, and then songs they want or don't want. So it's kind of like going to a flat top grill. You take all these random ingredients, and you're like, how is this going to work out? And you give it to the chef guy, and he puts it all together, and it comes back in a bowl. Somehow it tastes delicious, right?
Yeah.
No matter what. So that's kind of what we do, is we sit down with the client, we give them a template of a schedule, then they can adjust it in terms of the names of the bridal party, how many people are giving toasts, first dance songs, father, daughter, mother, son, where we should put cake cutting. Let's announce this over there. So I work with them in terms of the scheduling wise. We work with their wedding planner and the venue to make sure it's a nice, simple schedule that everybody can agree on. And music wise, we want to make sure that they get songs that are really inclusive. Mm-hmm. So if they have 300 guests at the beginning, we want 300 guests at the end to be there. I think what happens, when you get a higher end type of experienced company, you're much better at listening to some of the more details, right, as opposed to we want to generically here's the wedding A, B, or C, and you got to fit into this, and if we have to, we'll adjust it. That's what the lower quality groups will do. But when you get somebody who's more experienced and more caring, we really want to say, here are some guidelines, some general things we've done before, but we can make anything you want done, even if it's some schedule or a song or a style of music we've never done before. Yeah. We really love to dig deeper, so it's something that's really authentic and meaningful for that couple, right, and for that, because everybody's got their story, everybody's got their own love story, and we just kind of give a soundtrack to that. We had a groom whose dream was to be able to play guitar at his wedding, and he loved Guns N' Roses. So we transcribed November Rain, a 6-minute song with our 14-piece orchestra, right, just for him. And then afterwards, I gave him a black glossy guitar, which all the wedding guests signed with a silver Sharpie marker, and we gave it to him as a gift. Knowing
that you're taking the time to learn who these couples are and their loves and their passions, right, and their stories, mm-hmm, that reflects so highly on what you're doing, and it's not only memorable, but it's life-changing, and I think that's beautiful. The power of stories is important to what we do. We had a bride and groom that had a 3-year-old daughter, and she was sitting at one of the tables kind of half crying. I said, Farrah, what's wrong? She says, I didn't get a ring today. So I'm like, okay, what can I do to help? So it was pouring rain, but I ran 3 blocks to Walgreens, and I got her a ring pop. And she was like, oh my God. She showed every single person in the entire wedding her new fancy ring. Yeah. And that's a moment that I remember way more than any big giant, right, not Best of the Knot award or any of that stuff. Those are the moments that to me are much more interesting and meaningful, and that's kind of who they are, God, I love that. That makes me squirm inside. I just want to have a party, and I just want to have you come to my party. Not even work it. I just want to have you come. Yeah, sure, anytime. What are some good questions that a couple should ask of their entertainment, of their band, of their DJ? For the booking process, I think it's important to be able to find out what you're actually dealing with. Being able to see live recent footage of the band
or see the band at a thing, and knowing which musicians you're actually having. Like this is, like we have a very established band that have been with us for many, many years, can tell you the specific names of people, as opposed to like, oh, trust us, we'll put some guys together.
Right.
You want to see reviews that are not only recent, but you want to see how many they have. You want to see a long, not just like, here's Bob and Julie from God knows when, and like, you know, you want to see something from, of something recent in the last, 2 or 3 months. You want to be able to see, what above and beyond they can do. How professional are they? How consistently are they winning awards? Not just like, oh, we won in 2016, or, we've won like 13 years in a row. And so that kind of consistency, that's when you get something that's really, really high quality over a long period of time and really consistent. The really great people are ones that are maybe don't do 500 weddings a year, but they do a smaller amount, but they do super high quality, and level of detail is one thing to look for. Ask people stories. Ask bands some stories about how you went above and beyond learning some new song, or a situation that you were in that you had to kind of adjust things quickly to adapt. I act as the MC, even though I'm a really experienced bass player. We give them another guy to play bass, so my only job is, and right, ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the entrance of the room, as it is now time to, all those types of things, which really helps because I can talk to the photographer, the video person, the caterer, the venue. If the bride has a question, she doesn't have to go run and talk to the drummer or the vocalist who's playing and singing an Earth, Wind, and Fire song. I can be standing right next to them while all the guests are dancing. So we'll be able to, for example, make their wedding like 40% better because we look out for all the other vendors that are associated to it, and not just we're in our corner, this is just the music. So, but we want to be there for all the walkthroughs. So we are there from the very first phone call to the last note, holding hands. And even if it's some silly question, maybe you think, we've heard a million times, we probably have, but we are happy to answer it for you and walk you through that. Because I realize that, we're experts, you're an expert, I'm an expert, and you're dealing with somebody who, has never bought our services or products before. Correct. That's really important to kind of walk them through. They don't even know what questions to really ask. But, always look for a band that's something more than just 5 guys or 10 guys that are going to show up on your dates. Who's going to be there for the next year and a half in terms of helping you figure all this stuff out?
I think when a lot of people think of a band, they think of a few people getting up on stage, playing some music, but obviously there's a lot more that goes into that. What else goes into it?
Absolutely. First, sound is a big part of it. You have to have a sound company that is able to adapt to what your specific venue is. So if you're at a smaller place and you've got 80 people and the band comes in with this monstrous sound system with subwoofers, it's going to be too loud. Right. And the same thing if you have some giant hall and you've got 380 people and you've got the smaller sound system, that's not going to be the case. So you want to have an experienced sound company and sound engineers that will have everything all set up, tear everything down, super professional, courteous guys that will make sure everything sounds great. And then everything's kind of monitored throughout the night too. They are there and they're monitoring, they're adjusting throughout the night. We actually have a sound system that has an iPad mini, so we can stand behind the guests and adjust the sound remotely based on what the guests are hearing. So what we do is if it's time for toasts, introductions, we have the sound, the speaker's actually facing out a little bit, so it goes to the tables. Right. And then when it's time for dancing, we actually turn the speakers in slightly so it's like an invisible X in the middle of the dance floor, and that's where the concentration of the sound's going to be. Because the most important word for a great wedding is momentum, keeping this flowing into that, and that's really important too, to keep all that stuff going.
I see the MC as the quarterback of the evening. They're the ones making the last minute calls, like this has to be this way, blah, 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 but also making the calls for everyone else. They're kind of in charge of getting the information to everyone and the cohesion of the other vendors. So can you touch on that a little bit? Because you're not just there to say, and now, come on, thank you, and stand up, and things like that. It's a lot more detailed than that.
So what it is, we do the prep work with the client and with the planner and with the vendor. So everybody's literally on the same page. And so I give it to the photographer, the video person, caterer, and with the planner, we all sit and we kind of huddle together to make sure, okay, we're doing this here. They're going to be coming in from this entrance over there. Okay, so that's really helpful for somebody like you, for the videographer, so they can position themselves to be in the right place to get the right shot. So as a result of that, the bride and groom are going to get a much better quality video. First of all, like any band leader should absolutely drop their ego, and it's all about us doing this together. And even Tom Brady, he has to have his offensive line. He has to have certain, running back know exactly what's going on. So I just put people in the best position to do the best work. So the role of the MC is to kind of tie it all together to make sure everybody's all set, ready to go. Then when it's time for the father of the bride speech, you're going to get great photos of it. You're going to get great video. He'll know exactly where to stand, how to hold a microphone, all these little details that seem like, oh, who cares about that? But if your dad's giving a speech and it's down here and no one can hear you, little things like put a stand there, put him in a place where he can get the best results. That's kind of what the role of a separate MC does.
When a couple comes to you, or any musician, what are some things a couple should be aware of when they're going through the contracts?
I would say, of course, make sure the stuff, the date, the times, the venue, what's included, is parking included, meals, is that included, stipulations within the contract, when the deposit's due, what their terms are for the deposit, when the remaining balance is due, stipulations if someone isn't able to fulfill the contract, cancellation is a big thing, and different bands and different vendors have different policies for that. So make sure you have that in writing. If you need to postpone the date of the wedding, there's certain stipulations for that.
Right.
Make sure you have those situations taken care of, and make sure you get a copy of the contract as well. And if there are any changes to the schedule, even if it's just a half hour here and there, make sure that you get a new contract created to prevent any type of question. Oh, we didn't say this. It always comes back to the contract.
Right.
Make it throughout your whole wedding. Keep this KISS system going. Keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yeah.
Make things very obvious. You change things, make sure you get an updated contract. It may seem silly, but it'll take 10 minutes and will make things much, much easier. So be very clear, get all the details with cancellation, the exact date, the instrumentation, if there's, how many cameramen will you have? How many photographers will you have? If it's something where, if you want to put the specific name of the photographer or the video person or the caterer or, the band leader, whatever, you can put those things in the contract too, which can help.
So we're going to rip the Band-Aid off this one. Now granted, I know every market is different, and Nebraska is not the same as New York, and Chicago is not the same as northern Wisconsin. So what is some of the average prices for a band, a wedding band?
Yeah, now it's hard to say because there are obviously different sizes of groups.
Right.
But anywhere we have a 7-piece and then we have a 14-piece orchestra with or without ceremony music and different hours and stuff like that. So with the professional group, you're looking somewhere between like 7,000 and like 12 to 13,000.
Okay.
Something along those. Now, there are bands that certainly charge 30,000, 50,000. There are bands that will charge 2,000 or 3,000. Now, here's the key for all this stuff. It's all about perception, right? If you get some band, this quote unquote band, that's, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and they, mispronounce your mom's name, your guests aren't dancing, they won't learn a new song, all this kinds of stuff. Did you save money with this? Are you going to send an email? Sorry, our wedding was pretty lame, but we saved so much money with this other group. Wasn't that awesome? Don't we win?
Yeah.
So invest in the quality things that you're going to remember the most, okay? Right. I do like the barbecue test. Like 2 years later, you're talking about your wedding and stuff, and be like, oh, you're talking about what, you're going to talk about how you felt, Like Maya Angelou says, people forget what you do, people forget what you say, but people remember how you make them feel.
Correct.
So music, a great band will really make up for maybe you don't have the world's most spectacular flowers or bows in the back of the chairs, special swag bags or whatever. But if you have an awesome band, you've got a great venue that fits who you are, and you've taken the time to really build a very authentic and inclusive wedding, that it's going to be a great investment into your wedding. It's not a cost. Okay, getting a cheap, broken car, that's a cost. You get a cheap, inexperienced, or kind of like nebulous, what an actual band is, thing that seems super cheap, that's going to be really expensive because now all the money you spent for that great venue and the floors and the food and everything, people forget about that. They're going to remember this lousy band you had and how nobody was dancing and how disorganized it was and how impersonal it was. Or same thing with a videographer. You can find some guy who will shoot your wedding for $500 and you will get a video that you will just never watch again. And what's the point of that? You can't recreate these things again. You get this one chance. So invest in what you're going to remember first. Always invest in the best quality you can, because if you get all these little tchotchkes and do-it-yourself and Pinterest projects and all these things, and you don't take care of the most important thing, what's the point? So there's a wide variety of different things, but make sure that you're comparing what you're actually getting. Why is this group? You wouldn't buy a new car that's $3,000 and be like, oh yeah, I'm sure it's perfectly fine. Be like, oh my, what is wrong with this thing, right? And a band that's $50,000, you're like, what does this have besides hype that a band that's $12,000 wouldn't have, and is this extra things that they say they have, is it really important to what's going to make people dance or not? And look at a variety of different types of budgets too, because just like everything, if you want a Mercedes or do you want a
make sure you're comparing apples to apples.
Exactly. Don't just say how much is a band, because if you go around and you put down Jim Montgomery band, David Rothstein band, and it's not that. There's so many variables. If you buy a house that's cheaper, a fixer-upper, that you're spending all this time, I got to get new pipes, I got to get a hold of this. Did you actually save money in the long run?
Or
not to mention the quality of life. Yeah, exactly.
Quality of life. That's a perfect example. I'm talking to you, like you don't know. But take that into consideration when you're doing your price shopping and you're looking at everything. Actually compare apples to apples instead of just a band versus a band. Because I think that's wildly different.
Exactly, and it's not like, the 5 pieces this and then the 14 pieces that. It's all the other things that come with that.
Correct.
Well, how good of a sound are you going to have? What kind of lighting do you have that? And also some of these cheaper things may also, if you want an arrangement done, that's going to cost you. Where with us, it's completely included. Or you want to have sound? Okay, that's going to be an extra sound for this. Or a ceremony department. All these different factors. Look at the big picture of all the benefits that you're going to be getting. And there's nothing more expensive than cheap.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think you realize that until you get a little bit older.
Yeah.
And you start to look back on stuff and go, man, why did I waste all that money? So how can a couple, when they're booking with a band or entertainment in general, how can they ensure that they're getting that level of quality?
Well, I think it's important that you ask them, like, are these the musicians that are going to be playing for my wedding? That's really important.
Right.
And I think it's important to know that they do have a plan B. And the same thing with any catering company. They're not going to list all the people that are going to be doing the catering. Right. They need to have a plan. I mean, it's a little bit different, photographer, videographer or something. It's life, right? We're all humans. Yeah. Things happen. People get in car accidents and, God forbid, whatever. But there has to be a plan in place to be able to handle that and everything. But every quality company is going to have that, those types of provisions to be able to, deal with whatever happens.
I think that harks back to the idea that we're doing this because we actually care. Mm-hmm. We're not doing this because we're making $1 million.
Yeah, and there's certainly,
you
could cut corners and do all kinds of stuff to make an extra buck, but this is really worth it, and it's just, it's...
So on that note, let's say a couple wanted to reach out to a band and they see the price and maybe they can't afford that ticket price. What are some ways that they can save money and still get that level?
I mean, you could do a Friday wedding, you can do a Sunday wedding, you can do an off-season wedding, January through like April. Mm-hmm. A lot of times you can get or if it happens to be an open date that we're trying to fill, you can ask for that too. Mm-hmm. Like if we have a specific Saturday in July that's we're actually open, well, maybe we have a little bit more flexibility. And people work in different ways, but that increases your odds by doing a Friday or a Sunday wedding. Right. When you do out-of-state weddings, it's a little bit trickier because there's other factors in terms of travel expenses, or there's hotels if it's past a certain number of miles and stuff like that. So keep it in Chicago, do it on a Friday or a Sunday, or off-peak season like that. We do give discounts for military discounts. Oh. I've helped people, with real extraordinary situations to try to work with them. Yeah. Those are some of the factors.
Essentially, reach out to you and ask.
Yeah.
It's like, is this available? Can we do this? Is this possible?
You never know. I mean, you'd be surprised. You think like some date that we're completely booked. For some reason, maybe you had a cancellation or something like that. Right. It's always good to ask.
So, David, if someone were so inclined to reach out to you, to talk with you, to pick your brain, or to book with you, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Sure. They can go to our website, which is drsmusic.com. That's drsmusic.com. Or they can call or text me, 773-719-7610. Or you can email me, david@drsmusic.com. Yeah, I'm always here to help, and I really want people to get the best information before they hire any of their vendors. So that way they can get something that's really perfect for them, and they feel that it was the best investment, not just the cheapest price. So always try to get the best possible vendors you can really get that are in the most important categories, the things that will impact your wedding the most. Start with what's most important and kind of work your way back.
David, thank you so much for taking the time for
this. My pleasure.
We hope this episode of Vendors helps you on your wedding planning. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and to share to make sure you and your fellow planning couples don't miss a single episode. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to check out our entire conversation in the podcast. And be sure to check out all of our episodes about these amazing wedding industry professionals. We'll see you next time on Vendors. Vendors is produced and edited by Night Owls Media. More information can be found at nightowlsmedia.com.